additional handouts as soon as I've introduced our speakers. So if people who don't have a handout and want one, if you raise your hand, and here's one that will be given away. Here's what we need, one in this row. Here, right here. Okay, still, how many hands? Well, I'll make 10 more. I'll make 10 more, accommodate latecomers. He's up in the front. It's been a busy week in Lakeside. I appreciate the fact that all of you still have enough energy after such a busy week to come and be with us this afternoon. You see what the Lakeside Heritage Society events are for this coming week relative to educational activities. Information about all of these, of course, is in the Lakesider on the education page 15. So do refer to that page for more information. I'll just briefly say, because it won't show up until next week's paper, that the sailing program by Celeste Cook-Williams. Celeste was known as the water bug when she came to Lakeside at the age of 7. Her parents bought at 9, and she's more comfortable in the water than on land. So you'll want to come hear how Celeste started the sailing program 40 years ago here in Lakeside. Today's program came about, as all the programs do, in a curious kind of way. A year ago, I spoke with Jim Kettlewell, our friend on Walnut, and asked him if he would consider doing a presentation on Reverend Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, because I had 24 books that I wanted to get rid of. Now, I did know that Norman Vincent Peale had strong connections to Lakeside. He had preached here. I found out that his mother had been very active in the Women's Mission Society programming here at Lakeside. So it wasn't a stretch to say he had Lakeside connections. Well, Jim said he would think about it. I talked to him later in the summer. He said he was still thinking about it, pondering that, and then Jim passed away very suddenly, unexpectedly in August. Well, I wasn't by that time ready to give up on the idea. So I asked Jim's good friend and mine, Dave Blank, if he would consider taking on that subject. Dave thought about it for less than a week and said yes. So Dave has spent countless hours preparing for today, as any speaker does, for a topic. He prepared a very fine handout for your use today, and we are so happy that he is here. Now, at the end of the presentation, should you be interested, the 24 books that have been sitting in the vault at Lakeside since probably Norman Vincent Peale last spoke. And whenever they come across things that they want to get rid of, they call us at the Heritage Society. So we moved them from that office over to ours, and now they're here to be given away to those of you who would like to read one of Norman Vincent Peale's books. Please help me welcome to our podium, David Blank.
Well, thank you, Gretchen, and it's an honor to be asked to help my friend Jim Kettlewell. I titled this Lakeside and the Power of Positive Thinking. And I guess the subtitle is Ohio Boy Makes Good. Norman Vincent Peale was one of our most influential pastors and preachers for much of the 20th century. Ohio born and bred, the son of a Methodist pastor, Norman spent many, or more likely parts of many, summers at Lakeside in the early years of the 1900s. He was one of many kids who experienced Lakeside and went on to become prominent in their fields of endeavor. Not unlike a lot of you, by the way, either because of Lakeside or perhaps in spite of Lakeside. This afternoon I want to explore a little bit of Dr. Peale's life and influence on the nation. And I expect there are a number of people here who have either met Dr. Peale or heard Dr. Peale when he was here or otherwise. And perhaps I can have a show of hands of people who have either met or heard Dr. Peale. Because I would be interested at the end of the presentation if you would have some reflections you'd like to make about what your impression was of Dr. Peale. But we're going to talk about what Peale's message was, why was he so popular, some about his Ohio background, his family, some of his Lakeside experience, to the extent we know much about it, and what was his influence in the nation and the criticism of his message. He was not loved by everyone. Now I want you to make sure you get this two-page handout. I made it as small a print as I could figure out how to make it in order to minimize the number of trees. On this, there are a number of his books. There are books about him, there are books by his wife, some of his recommended guidelines for living, a statement on his death by Bill Clinton, and then on the back page, in addition to a couple photos, some related biblical references which he cites in The Power of Positive Thinking. Well, who was Dr. Peale and why was he so important? Now, here's where the best laid plans of mice and men, I can't teach the Scottish, but off go awry. I had planned to play from some of his recorded sermons, and on the bottom of page 2 of the handout is an internet reference to the Marble Church, which is where he spent so much of his career. They have 6 or 8 sermons that you can listen to, and I would highly recommend that if you want to follow along more about Peale, that you listen to some of them, because I guess you'll get a sense of what he sounded like, why he was attractive to people. Dr. Peale, as I said, was one of the most influential references of the 20th century. He was the pastor of Marble Collegiate Church on Broadway at 29th Street in Manhattan for over 50 years. He was the author of 46 books. One of them is here, as Gretchen said. I must note that if you read one of them, in my opinion, you've probably read all of them, because they're very similar to the extent that I've read them. They give the same message. Now, consistency is always good, but maybe you don't have to write 46 books with the same message. He was a dynamic, motivational speaker across the nation, internationally, on very many different platforms, not just to church groups, but to business groups and to many other organizations. He established a leading inspirational media outlets, both in print and on radio, particularly including the inspirational magazine Guideposts, which is still going strong, and the radio program The Art of Living, which is not. He co-founded, in agreement with Dr. Smiley Blanton, which we'll talk about in a couple minutes, the first school for pastoral psychology called the Institutes of Religion and Health, which is also still in operation. Dr. Peale presented a down-to-earth message of optimism, courage, and faith in God's love for the individual, which was intended to help people find confidence and inner peace for their lives. So what was Peale's message for us? Change your thoughts and you change your world. Believe in yourself. Have faith in your abilities. Without a humble but reasonable confidence in your own powers, you cannot be successful or happy. Stand up to your obstacles and do something about them. You will find that those obstacles don't have half the strength you think they have. The technique in his Power of Positive Thinking, which he extols, has 3 parts: prioritize, visualize, actualize. And he uses many examples of how he has worked with people to achieve positive results by using this method. He states about the book, this book is written with the sole objective of helping the reader achieve a happy, satisfying, and worthwhile life. And you can read the statements on here. I don't need to read them to you, but positive thinking think you can do it, and go do it. That's his message. And it's really pretty straightforward and pretty simple. Now, this book was on the New York Times bestseller list for 186 weeks. That's over 3 years. That's a long time. That was in the 1950s. It was translated into either 15, or another source I have, 41 languages. I don't know what the difference is. I can't reconcile that difference. There's a claim that 5 million copies have been sold. Dr. Peale tells us that in his youth, he suffered from the worst inferiority complex of all, which led him to develop his positive thinking, positive confessional philosophy and theologies. Some of the primary takeaways: expect the best and get it. Believe in yourself and everything you do. Develop the power to reach your own goals. Break the worry habit to achieve a relaxed life. Improve your personal and professional relationships. Assume control over your circumstances. Be kind to yourself. Now, why was this message so popular? There are many thoughts about this, but let me just give you my thoughts. The first is Peale came of age just after during the Depression, following the Depression. And of course, during the Depression, many Americans were not only looking for new solutions, but also different solutions than they'd used in the past to achieve success in their lives. And then World War II obviously was a huge impact on so many people. 12 million servicemen and women came home, and their need for solutions was paramount in a complicated world. Peale's message offered these solutions. It was easy to embrace these solutions. The message was accessible. It was not a religion of fire and brimstone. And on the other hand, it was not a complicated theology or a complicated philosophy that required lots and lots of hard work to understand. It's a simple message that through God you can achieve your goals. Now, I'm sure there are other reasons for much of his popularity, but that's what leads me to believe that he had such an influence. Well, who is this guy, and how did he get this approach? How did he come up with these ideas? Well, as I said, Norman's Ohio born and bred, and his parents, like most of us, have interesting stories on their own. His father, who you see seated in the photo there, his name is Charles Clifford Peale, Cliff Peale. Born in Lynchburg, Ohio. Now, how many here know where Lynchburg, Ohio is? It's way down south. It's in Highland County, down close to the Ohio River. Cliff's parents were Samuel Peale and Laura Fulton Peale. Her ancestors included inventor Robert Fulton, and his ancestors included the American painters Charles Wilson Peale and Rembrandt Peale. So there's a long history of the Peales in the country. Cliff graduated from Ohio Medical College in Cincinnati in 1892, and then promptly went off to Wisconsin, where he worked in Milwaukee as an assistant health commissioner. Well, Dr. Peale number one, I should say, came back to Ohio a couple years later, having suffered some health issues. And while he had returned to his parents, he received a call to the ministry and was ordained in the Methodist Church in 1895. First pastoral assignment was at Sugar Tree. Now, how many people know where Sugar Tree is? Just as many as know where Lynchburg is. Well, I was in the same boat. It's down the road from Lynchburg. Norman Vincent Peale's mother was Anna Delaney. Anna was born in Paris, Kentucky in 1875. She had a Methodist upbringing. Her father, Andrew, however, was an Irish immigrant who was raised Roman Catholic. Margaret Potts was the name of Anna's mother, and she was a Cooper's daughter. At age 17, Anna received a teacher's certificate and taught for 2 years in a country school. She and Cliff Peale were married on October 20th, 1895. And on this photo, you also see these wonderful baby pictures and infant pictures of of Dr. Peale. Dr. Peale Jr., that is. Norman was born in Bowersville, Ohio. He was born in a parsonage. And at this point, we have our first Lakeside connection. The Vincent in Norman Vincent Peale is named for Bishop John Vincent, one of the co-founders of Chautauqua Institute in New York. Cliff was in the second of his many pastoral assignments in Bowersville, and Cliff helped on the delivery. As a medical person, he could do that, but this was his last medical procedure that he performed, apparently, according to Norman. Now, Bonnie and I visited Bowersville earlier this spring en route to another destination. I suppose it would be more accurate that Bonnie's reaction when I suggested this was similar to her reaction when I say, can we visit yet another Civil War battlefield park?